Hello grade 8s. Today we're going to revise subject, predicate and object. You'll remember you covered this section of work when we were on hard lockdown, and you referred to your little language booklet on page 17 for the notes on subject and predicate, as well as objects and complements. Today we're not going to look at complements, just subject, predicate, and the two objects, direct and indirect. We'll also just take a look at what transitive and intransitive verbs are. So, what is a sentence? A sentence is a group of words that expresses a complete thought, and it must contain a subject and a verb. A sentence can then also be divided into a subject and a predicate, and the verb will be in the predicate, as well as any other information in the sentence. So the subject reflects who or what we are talking about. It is the person or thing that is doing the action in the sentence. The predicate, as I've said, is the verb as well as everything else in the sentence. So there could be adverbs. They will form part of the predicate. So here are some examples. The dog ate everything, including the plate. So as I told you previously, the key to any sentence is the verb. So if you identify the verb first, you can unlock the subject as well as the object when we get to that. So the first thing I would do is look for the verb, which I see is ate. Remember, it must be the finite verb, ate. And then you can ask who or what ate everything. And the answer is the dog. So there's your subject, the dog. And then everything else in the sentence is in the predicate. The boys in grade 8 are all excellent cooks. So here we find the finite verb are. Remember, not all verbs are doing words. We have other verbs. They are known. One way of speaking of them is the being words. So are. Who or what are all excellent cooks? The boys in grade 8. So there is your subject. And then the rest falls into the predicate. Now we move on to the direct object. And some sentences have an object. Please take note, not all sentences. Some sentences have an object. So here we have the grade 8 learners read the new English textbook. So you can see that the red part there, the grade 8 learners, is the subject. Read is the verb. And the new English textbook will be the object. You could also say that grade 8 learners read the new English textbook. It can be in the present tense as well. Right, so let's have a look at the sentence. Again, if I were to analyze the sentence, I would first look for the verb. And so I'll find that it's read or read, depending which tense you've taken. And then I will ask who or what read the new English textbook. And my answer is the grade 8 learners. So that will be the subject. And then I could ask the grade 8 learners read who or what? They read the new English textbook. So that is the object. So there's the explanation for you. The verb is read or read. The subject is the grade 8 learners. The object is the new English textbook. And then the new English textbook is what the learners, the subject, read or read. So it is the direct object. The action in the sentence is done to the object by the subject, right? So the grade 8 learners read the new book. To find the object in this sentence, you could also say, what did the grade 8 learners read? Remember, I said the grade 8 learners read what, but it boils down to the same thing. Then we have an exercise, an activity that you're going to practice. So I will skip over this slide and move on to the next one, and then you can come back and complete this exercise. You will first have to write the sentences into your book, and then follow the instructions. Circle the subject, highlight the predicate, underline the object. Now we come to the indirect object. The indirect object of the sentence is the recipient of the direct object, the thing that's being acted on by the subject. So before you can find the indirect object, you need to find the direct object. You find the direct object by finding the verb and asking what, right? And then once you found the direct object, you can ask who or what received it. To find the direct object, remember, you could also use the word who, not only what. So here's an example. Gabriella passed the parcel. All right, so here you would look for the verb passed. Who passed the parcel? Gabriella. So Gabriella is the subject. Gabriella passed what? The parcel. So that is your direct object. But Gabriella passed her father the parcel. Here you can see there's an insertion. So Gabriella passed what? She passed the parcel, and she passed it to whom? To her father. So that is your indirect object. When you analyze this sentence, it would be possible to say Gabriella passed whom? She passed her father. She passed what? The parcel. But then you have to go back and think about the verb passed. What did she actually pass? She wouldn't have passed her father, literally. Pass as in hand over a package, which is what the sentence intends. And so the thing that she actually passed was the parcel, okay, what she handed over. And she handed it over to her father. So this is a way you could test for the indirect object. The sentence can be written, Gabriella passed the parcel to her father. All right, if you are able to put that at the end, then you know that is the indirect object. So here's another activity for you to practice the direct and the indirect object. You have to rewrite the sentences and then underline the indirect objects and highlight the direct objects. Please remember, not all sentences have an object. It is also possible that a sentence will have a direct object, but not an indirect object. So you need to read carefully. Finally, I just want to introduce you to transitive and intransitive verbs. So you might remember from prefixes, trans means across. So a transitive verb is a verb that has a direct object. The verb can be done to someone or something. So in a way, you could say the action of the verb carries across to someone or something. So here's an example. Tabang kicked Sam under the table. So you can find the verb kicked, subject, who kicked Sam under the table? Tabang, so the tabang is your subject. Now, is there an object? Tabang kicked who? Yes, he kicked Sam. So there is a direct object. Under the table is a phrase telling us where he kicked Sam. Right? So that's not part of the subject or the object. Then an intransitive verb is a verb that has no direct object. It cannot be done to someone or something. As in this example, the baby smiled. So we've got the verb smiled. Who or what smiled? The baby. So the baby is your your subject. But there's nothing else. So clearly there is no object here. We could add an adverb. The baby smiled cheekily, all right, or the baby smiled happily. So you could put in an adverb, but that is not an object. So smiled is an intransitive verb. Now it's important to notice also that some verbs are transitive and intransitive. The only thing that will differentiate between them is that in some cases they will have an object, then they will be transitive, and in other cases they will have no object, and then they are intransitive. So I don't have a written example, but listen to this example. The choir sang many songs, right? So there we have the verb sang. And you could say the choir sang what? Many songs. So there is a direct object. But you could say the choir sang loudly. Then we have got sang again. We've got the choir is the subject, but loudly is not an object. Loudly is telling us how they sang. It is an adverb. So in that example, sang is intransitive. And then to finish off, just an activity to practice the transitive and intransitive verbs. So what you need to do for this activity is just write down the verbs from each sentence. Remember, each sentence must have a verb. So find the verb, the finite verb, and then you must state whether it is transitive or intransitive. So what you're doing is you're looking to see if there is an object. So if it is transitive, then I want you to write down the direct object as well. And then we will send you the answers at a later stage.